Welcome to another MoJoes podcast. I'm your host, MoJoe, practicing my social distancing, welcoming my co-host, MoJoe, on the telephone line. How's it going, MoJoe?
Hello. It's going very well. This is our fifth or sixth remote podcast?
Yeah, we're cranking them out, man.
Indeed, yeah. All right. Did you feel the aftershock again today?
You know, I heard from someone that we had one, but no, I did not feel it personally. Isn't that interesting? You felt it up where you are?
No, I
you didn't
saw
either.
it.
You saw it?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I saw it. Yeah, I found out how I know if I've just been hit by an earthquake. You've been to my house many times where we do our jamming in my living room here.
Uh-huh.
From my little perch next to my fireplace where I work every day, across the room from me, I have two computer monitors on my desk over there.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is tilted kind of out towards the valley, so it reflects tremendous sunlight right towards me. And so now, since the big one hit a week or so ago, a little over a week ago,
yeah.
Whenever an aftershock hits, I see that monitor is slightly vibrating and moving, and it sends little perturbations in the light it's reflecting to me.
Oh.
So I can say, okay, that was not a strong gust right there. That was that was something else.
You can tell the difference. Interesting.
Yeah, indeed.
Interesting. Yeah, I called a friend that I wanted to check in on today. He is actually he's a teacher. He works at a school out in West Valley. I'm not sure exactly where. And he said that their school is being considered. They're thinking about condemning it because I guess they had a cinder block come off the wall. They said the earthquake hit it in just the right way. He said it weathered this one pretty well, but they're worried if there's another one that size, it could be bad.
Oh, wow.
So they're considering closing the school. Yeah, that's something. I hadn't heard any real damage other than like the homeless shelters. The only thing I saw downtown Salt Lake, some of the, what do they call that word, facade fell off on the top of the building.
Facade.
Just some bricks. Mm-hmm.
That was the main damage that happened here after the big one on that Wednesday morning, I believe it was.
5.7. Yep.
5.7. And, it caused some facade to fall, and like downtown Magna had some facade fall, but I didn't see one full building collapse, not one. I didn't hear of any water mains breaking or any problems with gas lines.
My daughter's school
we
was
dodged
okay.
a bullet there.
Yeah, really did.
Yeah. And that got me thinking too, Joe, I should have done the research on this, but the Richter scale, when we hear a number associated with the Richter scale, we hear 5.7 or 7.1, even, like up to 9.0 or something like that. Correct me if you know differently, but if I remember right from years ago, the last time I heard this, every decimal point means that it's 10 times stronger. For example, a 5.1 is 10 times stronger than a 5.0. Does that sound right to you?
That does sound right to me. Yeah, I think it does go up rather fast. It's stronger than you might think.
So So, if I were Dr. Richter, I would kind of revamp that. That's a scary scale, man. That's we had a 5.1. Oh yeah, I had a 5.2. So I'm 10 times tougher than you are.
It seems like hurricanes are kind of like that too. There's only like 4 or 5 categories of hurricanes. So the next
5,
one up is quite a bit bigger.
Mm-hmm. So on the COVID-19, have you been hearing any good news? I purposely stayed away from news today.
Wow, good for you.
I watched movies and I just I spent most of the day. This is my second day in a row without leaving the house once for any reason whatsoever. And so I've always tuning into little YouTube clips, whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC or BBC or whoever it is.
It's hard not to catch a headline at least.
Yeah. So I stayed away from it. Has there been any good news, like a decline in deaths in certain countries? like 0 new cases reported in one of the hot spots. Did you hear anything that we can hang our hat on? Or
no, nope.
Hmm.
I heard Spain just overtook Italy in the number of deaths, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, not good.
So wait, one headline I think I read is that America has now more confirmed cases than any other country in the world.
Really?
Did you hear that one also?
I did not hear that one. No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, not deaths, but confirmed cases.
That strikes me as hard to believe when we're having trouble testing. I don't know where those numbers come from.
Well, there's a good question there.
Confirmed meaning what? They've been tested? Well, wow, I didn't know we had so many tests. That's great.
Yeah, it's maybe I don't know. Maybe it's something I heard that was fake news or something I read.
Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
No good news. The only I still have a nugget of hope, though, and that's all I really need, is that they're working really hard on the problem. I've seen lots of stories like that. They're trying this, they're thinking this, they might want to do that. They're having trials over here, trials over there. So they're trying. I think one drug's going to human trials here in the next few days to a week. So that's good to know. That's good to see. We are an industrious, hairless ape, man. We're pretty smart. We're pretty smart when we put our minds to it.
Well, I'm hairless. You've got a little bit, but I'm hairless. I'm a hairless ape, for sure. And as far as human trials, actually, I think I remember seeing a young lady, maybe 30 years old, being injected a few days ago on a YouTube clip, and that was one of the first human trials that's been tried. Mm-hmm. And it's an amazing challenge that our health researchers and healthcare professionals are up against, because the main thing they're doing, their main thing is not to kill the virus and cure us or vaccinate us. Their main thing is to not kill us by side effects. Mm. That is the main concern. It would be easy to just take a syringe full of bleach and inject it into somebody.
Exactly.
That'll kill the virus. You bet. Right. But what a tricky thing.
It's not quite that simple. Yeah, everybody's different, and it could take any number of ways to figure it out.
Indeed, yeah. So we didn't have a major earthquake. There's no big news on COVID-19, but I did have one eye-opening thing that I wanted to share with you, Main Joe, and hopefully some listeners will try and catch this if they can. And the only place I've been able to find it is on HBOnow.com. Mm-hmm. I'm subscribed to that, and I watched a documentary, and it was truly stunning. What this documentary did for me was to really explain how fake news can sway, how it can influence, especially elections.
Yeah.
So the title of this, I just looked it up right now on HBO Now, and it's called After Truth, forgive me, listeners, After Truth, and then a colon, like the punctuation, colon. Disinformation and the Cost of Fake News. And Manjo, I can't recommend it enough.
Cool.
We have so many things we can consume, and we're all looking to be entertained right now because we're cloistered and secluded.
Yeah.
But this thing really did explain to me. I don't want to say it this way, but it might have the most weight if I say this is how the Russians did it in 2016, and how they're doing it now. And the way they explained it to me in simple terms that I could understand was they showed the election in Alabama of the Senate election of Roy Moore, that cowboy, former Supreme Court judge, against Doug Jones, the Democrat, in deep red Alabama. Mm-hmm. And it was absolutely fascinating. And I've to get through this, I'm going to have to ramble a bit, but please pepper me with questions here and there, pepper me with some clarifications as I go on.
Sure.
So this documentary, it's only like an hour long, and it touches on 4 or 5 different scandals if you will, or scandals isn't really the right term. 4 or 5 different fake news stories that had some bad consequences. I believe it started with the Comet Ping Pong Pizza, the Hillary Clinton child sex ring.
That one always pissed me off. Did anybody do any time for that? Was there any consequences? That whole thing?
Nope.
That's fucking
insane. The only
insane.
one who went to jail. The only one who went to jail there was the guy who went in there with an AR-15 rifle,
thinking there was a basement.
Fired off some rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was looking for a basement, couldn't find it.
That pisses me off so bad. And when he walked in,
what's that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I just said that's always kind of bugged me, that story.
That one, yeah. And so he walks in there with a fully loaded Cox arm, assault rifle ready to go, and he walks to the back and he can't find any stairs down into a basement, and he can't find any locked doors that might hide a staircase, except for one. There's one locked door. So those are the rounds he fires. It wasn't into the ceiling like we heard news reports. It was into this door to blow the lock off. And he looks in and he sees it's just an employee locker, really, for them to put their coats and hats and, whatever when they come into work. And then, thankfully, the police surround the place and he walks out. He disarms himself. He lays on the ground. And the cops, as they're cuffing him, they're saying, one of them says, well, what were you trying to do in there? And he goes, I'm trying to stop a pedophile ring. They go, what? And he goes, well, there's a pedophile ring in there. I was in there to stop it. And, and what it did then is it showed the seeds of his belief, how he was germinated, if you will. Yeah. And a lot of it was Reddit and 4chan are the big ones they called out.
Is it that we're just so impressionable as a species? Aren't we?
Yes, we are.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, like Christopher Hitchens said, if we can't find any patterns, we make our own. A conspiracy theory is better than no theory at all.
That's what separates us. The ability to see and create patterns, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, for good or bad.
Right, yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. And then it moved on after that. There were several others that were obviously born of fake news. But here's the main thrust that I wanted to throw at you, especially tonight. In light of the fact that you and I recently, one of our remote podcasts, we discussed should the Democrats start doing some dirty pool?
Yes, we did.
To try and win some elections. We kind of mentioned that, and well, it's already happened, Joe. It has already happened. And again, it was that Roy Moore election down in Alabama against Doug Jones. And please remember, here's the upshot. Doug Jones won by only about 21,000 votes, maybe 20,000 votes.
Wow.
In all those counties. That's a statewide election.
Like I say, it's always close to 50-50. It's weird.
Yeah. So, this documentary crew, I don't know how they did it, but they got people to admit that there was some Democrat billionaire tech guy in Silicon Valley who funded a certain organization who then turned around and used that money to fund like a social media campaign that I had no idea about until I saw this documentary. And they got the guy, they only interviewed the one guy. They didn't interview any of his staff. This one guy sitting on camera saying, yeah, I put out a lot of fake news clips on YouTube, several of them, surrounding the election of Roy Moore. Is his name Roy Moore, I believe. Yeah.
Sounds right. Judge Roy Moore. Yeah.
Judge Roy Moore, yeah. And, Moore lost by 20,000 votes, and it broke down how if, they showed the metrics, these fake YouTube clips that this company put out, or this gentleman and his organization put out, got over 3 million views.
Wow.
And so they were saying, okay, now distribute that among all of the counties in Alabama. Now, if we were not trying to get Roy Moore supporters to vote for Doug Jones, we were trying to get Roy Moore supporters to stay home. And if we got 1% of that 3 million, That's 30,000 votes more lost by 20,000 votes.
Yep. Wow.
Now this sings right back to the 2016 election too, doesn't it?
Yep.
Trump won. He won by what? 70,000 votes spread across 3 states.
Something like that. Crazy.
Now let me describe, if I may, one of the fake videos, the one I remember the most that he put out there. And again, this wasn't nationwide. This was just targeted in Alabama. They created a bunch of fake Facebook accounts in Alabama,
and it was a Senate
YouTube channel.
A Senate race, right?
It was a Senate race, and one of these had this guy who put out these fake videos. He's admitting they were fake. They were totally fake, but supporting the Democratic side, the Democrats. And he hired some voice talent, a lady who could do accents of any kind.
Wow.
And she faked a heavy Southern drawl, Alabama, so she sounded authentic. And she got on there and started speaking. You didn't see her, but you heard her speaking, and it showed pictures of some cocktails and some pictures of bottles of booze on a counter. And the falseness of it was that Roy Moore is looking to make Alabama a dry state. That was the fake headline. There was absolutely no truth to that whatsoever. And then they used this voice talent lady to start saying, well, here's how you can make a mint julep that doesn't offend our Lord Jesus Christ. And it's a virgin mint julep. And then she went through the whole recipe, and you grind it up and you mix it. It's delicious. And we'll be just fine as a dry state here in Alabama, won't we? We'll be all right. And that was one of the many that they put out. And so the Democrats are already doing it too. And it was again eye-opening to me, and that it showed me how that stuff worked back in 2016 and how it's going on right now as we speak.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, if I may. Another one on that level was Robert Mueller. Now, tell me if you heard this. I think I remember hearing a blurb about this during Mueller's investigation, that he was credibly accused of sexual assault, if not rape, like 3 years ago at a bar in Washington, D.C. or something like that. Did you hear any report about sexual transgressions from Robert Mueller? Did you ever hear anything about that?
Not a word, nope.
Okay. So it didn't stretch as far as they were hoping. But this camera crew, these documentary filmmakers went, and they were granted incredible access. They went and followed the 2 guys who were putting out this false story, and they knew it was false. And they interviewed them, or they didn't really interview them, but they were just like a reality show. They were following them around. And when they got together and they had their laptop and they're saying, okay, here's our challenge. We have 24 hours to come up with credible charges against Robert Mueller of sexual impropriety or sexual assault. And so they started thinking, okay, what can we do? What can we do? And then they got a phone call, and they got some sleazy lawyer saying, okay, I've got a lady named Caroline Cass who's willing to sign an affidavit saying she was assaulted by Robert Mueller.
Wow.
So they called a press conference, and they had reporters from the New York Times and Washington Post and CNN and all these people in this room who were expecting to meet this lady in person. And then when they show up, then they announce, well, she's in hiding right now because she's getting death threats, and we'll arrange her schedule and we'll bring her out maybe when it's safer. And everybody in the room, all the reporters in the room says, well, wait a minute, how is she getting death threats when nobody knows her name and nobody knows where she is, nobody knows where she lives? How is this real? And it just showed how these slimy fake news people were trying to put out this story. They did not care one bit whether it was true. They only cared if it went viral. That's all they cared about. And this is the world we live in now, Joe, and it sparks, it prompts many different levels of debate and discussion. Well, I'm kind of stuck on something you said early on there, is we want to believe the best. And I can agree with you, that people want to believe the best about fellow humans.
Yeah.
But those are just the people that we don't meet. The people, the man and woman on the street, we want to believe the best about them.
Yeah.
But I think when the average human is sitting here watching YouTube clips or broadcast news or something, we want to believe the worst. We want to see O.J. Simpson fall. We want to see that.
You want to see the train wreck? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess so.
There's some kind of fascination about it. Yeah, I think that's probably one facet of how and why Trump won. People wanted to see him train wreck, man. This guy has went belly up how many times for bankruptcy, and how many contractors' lives has he ruined because he doesn't pay them? Nothing ever happens. No consequences.
No idea.
People would love to see him just crash and burn, man.
Yeah, they would. I've watched several documentaries on Trump, and not just contractors. It showed one of his favorite ways to make illicit money until people got wise to him was he would simply just announce the construction of a new Trump Tower condominium, whether it's in Sri Lanka or Miami or wherever it is.
Yeah.
And then for the first 2 or 3 weeks, he'd have bulldozers on site, and they'd be moving earth around and all this, and he would bring investors down and say, look, we're going. This is going to be one of the best ever. Trust me, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be terrific. And so they interviewed 4 or 5 people who all put down, $200,000 on their condo, waiting for it to be built in 6 months. And then a month later, he'd declare bankruptcy. They would get paid back pennies on the dollar. He would make off with $80 million and then move on to his next scam.
Wow.
Wow. And he's been doing stuff like that forever.
Yep.
He's not I was about to say he's not a legitimate businessman, but,
if you can call that business, ripping people off, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I've heard lots of stories like that too. Yeah. Seth Meyers is always making fun of him looking like a mafia hitman. I think his last little monologue, he said a joke about that and how all Trump needs is the hat and the bat.
I think I saw that. Yeah, next to his bookcase. I saw that one last night. But, that's amazing stuff we're in right now.
It is.
It harkens me back to, I want to draw a quick parallel between typewriters and printers. You're old enough. Back in high school, did you ever take a typing class, middle school, typewriter class?
High school, I loved my typing class. It was a hoot.
It was fun, yeah, and I got good at it, man.
Yeah, me too.
When I got rolling, it sounded like I was popping popcorn. I was moving. And so then, the PCs come about and word processors and the HP printers. And my first thought was, well, that's great. Now it's going to save so much paper because, we're not going to get halfway through typing up our term paper on a typewriter and screw it up and then just toss it out and put it in a fresh sheet of paper.
It's true.
It's going to save a lot of paper. The exact opposite happened.
Oh, man.
The consumption of paper, once we had these word processors and you just click print and you can print as many copies as you want, the consumption of paper went through the roof. Just, exactly the opposite of what I would expect. Now, the parallel I want to draw is back in the early days of the internet, and I started seeing Wikipedia and all these pages describing this or that and how-tos and, encyclopedias and all that. I started thinking, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, people that have all this information right at their fingertips, we're going to be a smarter, better informed society as a result. And the exact opposite has happened in large swaths of the globe. The exact opposite of what I was expecting. So, it shows that don't trust me. I might do a kind of slot machine, but predict the future, I am not your guy.
Yeah, me either. I tend to look for the good in people, and I've always thought the USA we were the good guys, and the older I get and the more I see and understand, the more that comes out, it's like, oh my God, man, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I mean, do we have to play that kind of ball? Do we have to be bad guys in order to stand up to people like Putin and other powers of the globe? It's like maybe Democrats can't be nice. Maybe that there's just no way to win being nice. Bernie's having trouble winning, and he's the nicest guy and nicest politician I've ever seen in my 50 years plus being on this planet.
He's a genuine guy.
Like him and Jimmy Carter. Okay, maybe Jimmy Carter might have a chance against him. I like Jimmy a lot, too. He doesn't seem like a nice guy.
Jimmy got a bad rap, didn't he?
I thought
Things
so.
just went south.
I've always thought so.
His president, yeah. He was just a fundamentally decent man. As honest as a politician can be, I guess.
You know, again, I refer back to Christine Stenquist's podcast where she was like, it's tough, man. Because she's nibbled at in politics a little bit. She's played with it. She's ran for some things. She says it's really tough because you got your constituency and everyone's got their own ideas about what you should do, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it was during that podcast where I shared a quote that actually I came up with. That usually you always hear me quote other people from history, but this is mine. Was the reason our politicians are corrupt and that they lie to us is because we demand it of them.
We want to see the train wreck.
And yeah, again, the train wreck.
I don't know.
Well, kind of.
Kind of.
I mean, every politician who has ever really achieved or been elected to high office has had a moment or two at least where they're standing behind a podium or they're in the middle of an interview where they know, if I tell the truth right now, my political career is over.
Oh, dude.
You know, I think they've all had that.
Absolutely.
You know, and it kind of
some of them get good at it. Some of them get good at avoiding questions and not answering things. You know.
Well, some of them, like Trump, get to the very top by doing nothing but lying and aggrandizing and self-love and self-promotion and, you know, all these things.
Pretty amazing story. Yeah.
Well, you know, and it helps me come to an answer about a question you asked 2 podcasts ago, where you said, you know, MoJoes, should the Democrats start playing dirty? Essentially. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Bill Maher kind of says the same. He that's probably where I got it from. It's like, should they play dirtier?
And I was trying to be all holistic and holier than thou and everything by saying, well, I don't know, MoJoes, because that means we're as bad as they are, you know. But now I watched a clip today on Abraham Lincoln, and it kind of helped me make up my mind, at least to a degree, where if we think of, you know, the best presidents, the most honest politicians, the people with integrity and class and generous spirit, we think Abraham Lincoln. He was the best. But that man passed the 13th Amendment by corruption, through corruption that he knew was happening, that he actually put in motion. And did so, of course, in brilliant political ways where it could never get tied back to him. But, oh, yeah, it was corrupt. There were dollars changing hands. There were high-ranking positions being promised if you just change your vote, or if you sway your congressperson to change his vote. Well, of course, there were no female Congress members back then. But it did kind of, it solidified me a little bit to answer your question. Should the Democrats, quote, play dirty? And I'm going to say, yeah, but let's just hope that if a Democrat does start playing as dirty as the Republicans do, that deep down they're actually still a decent person. They just realize they've got to do what Abraham Lincoln did, and they've got to do what this billionaire did to defeat Roy Moore in Alabama. It is for a greater good, you know. Defeating Republicans is really all we've got now. It's our only chance.
You know, yeah, it seems that way, dude. It seems that way.
It seems that way. You're right.
It just seems like the clock is ticking. Things are not improving. I mean, what's going on? You know, like you said, there's a reckoning coming. I mean, we've got to find better balance in this. We got to grow up. I don't know, something. Yeah.
I do remember the question I was asked, and I do have an answer, but only one. it was back in 2016 election, the Republican primaries. They started out with like 23 candidates, and it got whittled down to Trump. And one of our good friends asked me, "Well, who do you like in the Republican field?" And then I immediately gave my knee-jerk response: none of them. I am anti-Republican across the board. And they say, "Well, Mojo, there's got to be at least one that has a couple of items that you like." And so I did some research, and I found one, John Huntsman Jr., right here from Utah.
Isn't he running for governor?
He did do, I think, a brief presidential run, either in 16 or 12. Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And
I think he's running for governor this year.
Yeah. And I'll vote for him because
I think I could.
Nobody. I could.
like him all right. I've never heard anything bad about him. I mean, he seems like a genuine guy for the most part, right? As far as a politician goes.
Yeah.
Seems to care.
Yeah. Well, he actually was born with one major disadvantage that he overcame. And this disadvantage is going to strike you a little, might strike you a little bit odd when I say it, but he is one of the people, I don't know why I don't want to say the very few because I don't know, but he is one of those people who was born into and raised with incredible advantage, especially financial advantage, born into the billionaire Huntsman family.
Ooh, yeah.
And typically, you wind up like Don Jr. and Eric, or Uday and Hussein, or something like that, or Paris Hilton and her scumbag brother Conrad. Often that will happen. But John Huntsman Jr. is very intelligent, educated, worldly, and it just seems like a kind man.
Yeah.
And when he was on a talk show, I think it was Seth Meyer or one of them, Conan maybe, and he spoke about the one political platform that I hold above all the others. You know what it is, the big dark money in politics.
Oh.
And for me to hear a Republican coming out saying, we've got to get rid of Citizen United, we've got to get big dark money out of politics.
That's huge.
Because it is.
It's giant.
And
that's one of your top three, isn't it?
It's number one.
Number one.
Now, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Healthcare is number two, and education is number three.
Nice.
And so it was refreshing to hear a Republican say that, and it softened me that I can't just be a blanket anti-Republican at all times. There are bound to be some of them that will espouse things like this that I hold dear, that I think will be best for America.
Here's a thought I just had. What if Biden picks John Huntsman as his VP running mate?
Oh man, now that is a winning ticket.
He said he would pick a Republican, and man, if he picked him,
he did. Yeah,
that could be interesting.
Very. Talk about a game changer.
Yeah, I would love to see the Republican Party make a comeback, and start being more for the people like they claim to be. Yeah,
exactly.
If they could just shelve abortion for a while, and let's talk.
Yeah, and back away from this religious persecution. Christians are under attack in America. Back away from that
please, yes. Because I like being fiscally conservative. I'm all for that. I like to get what I like to get a good value when I spend money, right?
That is a great idea, Main Joe. I hadn't even thought of that. A great,
you heard it here first, people. The Two Joes podcast just came up with the winning ticket. There's a lot of Republican never-Trumpers out there, They could really,
several, yeah.
They could really maybe sway it.
Who was it? Senator Flake, I believe, who retired, left office because of Trump. Romney, that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Romney, I'm lukewarm on. I've seen worse people.
I've softened
in
on
politics
him too.
A little bit. Yeah, he did save the Olympics. He saved the Olympics. He gets a point for that.
He does okay there. He's still much too socially conservative for me. He still thinks marijuana is a gateway, which is just ludicrous.
We just need to get him
stoned. slip some edibles into his Cheerios.
You know, I think he should plan a trip to Canada, and we'll find him a host and introduce him.
Denver,
top secret, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the old ex-House Speaker of the House. What's his name? Boehner. He's into it now.
Yeah. There's another 180 right there. Yeah. It makes me wonder though if he were still Speaker and yet saw the dollar signs on legal pot, would he have made any kind of change like that if he were still Speaker? I don't think so.
He was playing the game, man. He played the game. That's why he used to go in there and go zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. When he was like out the door, he was like, I'm getting the fuck out of this town, man. He was pumped. Yeah. He just wanted to go home, smoke pot, and mow his lawn, work on his tan. That guy could tan, man.
Well, he wanted to go sell pot. I don't know. I doubt he's ever going to smoke it, but he wants to sell it, and God bless him to keep him away from. Have you heard how many of our politicians are involved in the payday loan industry?
Oh.
That's essentially legal loan sharking, and our very fucking politicians are making millions a year off of that shit.
Don't tell me that, dude. Every time I go by one of those stores as it is, I look at them and just think to myself, oh, those poor people that are getting ripped off, paying for that nice side corner building and nice signage, and they're making some
nice landscape.
They're making some bucks, and it's off the backs of these people. They're just no other options,
So desperate, yeah. And the thing is, though, MoJoes, every time I drive by one of those, I never see any customers in there.
That's true too.
So I don't know if they
how are
come
they
in
doing
herds, or
it's online.
Maybe they might need only like 1 or 2 an hour in order to make these obscene profits. Maybe that's all they need.
Dude, you're probably right, man. Ugh, my poor stomach just sank.
I never see any. It's not like a bank,
And there's more of them all the time. They're almost as bad as vape stores.
Yeah, like that, and they're
I shouldn't say as bad as. I meant as many of them.
As frequent as, yeah.
You see as many of them out there, and you see a lot of vaping stores. Yeah,
and once again, that's why I'm anti-Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of the many reasons I'm anti-Republican is they all say, "Oh, it's free market. We can't do it. We can't clamp down. We got to protect the free market." At least the Democrats try to rein it in slightly here on the edges,
and make it on the up and up more. Yeah, regulated.
And then of course, if you visit one of the websites of these things, I remember about a year ago I visited a website out of curiosity, and boy, they make it sure sound rosy. You had an unexpected medical expense and you need a quick $500 to make your rent. All right, here you go. And if you pay us back within 7 days, it's only going to cost you $545. But how often does that really happen?
Yeah.
They make it sound, it's only going to cost you $45, and we'll make sure your credit doesn't get hit, you don't get evicted, and your water stays on, all that kind of crap. But that's not what they're targeting, and we all know it. And it's like credit cards. When credit cards really came on the scene back in, what was it? Probably right about Reagan is when credit cards started realizing, we can go lend a ton of money to people. They'll start making us payments at these huge interest rates. And even if 70% of them default, we're still going to profit very handsomely. They figured this out.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that's capitalism in a way, isn't it? You're trying to pay your worker the least you have to, and these laws are in place, minimum wage, for a reason, because they'll pay you 10 cents an hour if they could, and work your child to death too.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Well,
I mean, if you what's his name? The Humanist Report. Have you ever watched that guy? Mike Figueredo or whatever. I won't get his name. He really blames capitalism for the majority of our woes. You know, it's just such a blood-sucking concept when it comes down to it. You know, it's taking advantage of people.
Yeah, and I suppose that aspect of it has always been there.
Yeah.
But it just in today, ever since the 80s, it just seems to be much more pronounced and have much more dire consequences for struggling families.
More extreme.
You know, back in the, I think back in the 1890s, you wanted to hire some farmhands to come and help you with your crop during the harvest. Mm-hmm. You've got to pay them, or else they're going to go work the next crop down the road.
Right.
You know, and I wish that still was around. But if you want to go to one McDonald's and they're only going to pay you $7 an hour, you can't go to the next McDonald's and expect 15. They're going to be offering you $7 an hour also. Yeah. Or go to Walmart. They'll be offering you $7 an hour. We got to evolve. You know, again, like Abraham Lincoln said, as our challenges are new, we must think and act anew.
Yeah.
And that's again why I don't like Republicans. They are traditional. They're conservative. They think, no, we've got to stick with these tried and true things. We cannot tweak them at all, or else it's socialism, or else it's Venezuela.
Yep.
You know, that's a big battle.
Change comes so slow. We're just like Jimmy Dore was saying about the Democratic Party, is that they were just calcified. They couldn't adapt to change. And it's more than just the Democratic Party. You know, it's people in general don't like change. I'm one of them. I don't like change. But sometimes...
Well, we're afraid of it.
Yeah, sometimes...
Because it's uncertain. Humans hate uncertainty. Yeah. It makes us uneasy and unsettled, and oh no, there's a conspiracy going on here. I just know it. You know,
that's
and
why we're
sometimes they're right.
Yeah.
Like when Hitler was rising to power, all he did was talk about the conspiracy to stab Germany in the back in World War I and the Versailles Treaty and everything. He did nothing but make a career off of talking about conspiracy theories. And people bought it without realizing he is the one doing the conspiracy theory. He and his henchmen and his cutthroats. They're the ones actually doing the conspiracy theory. You know, so occasionally the Alex Joneses out there are right, but not very often.
Well, as Joe Rogan tells it, he started out okay, and then he just kind of went off the deep end. You know, I don't know. What power, money changes people, and he just took it to the extreme, and now he can't come back. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that raises another good debate right there, man. Joe, I'd love to get your input. Again, this documentary I saw on HBO, the After Truth documentary, it showed they had probably a good 10 minutes dedicated to Alex Jones.
Wow. And
it showed how mainly right after he came out with the Sandy Hook bullshit, that has deep state or inside job written all over it, and fake actors, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever came right out and said no kids got killed, but that is exactly what he wanted his followers to believe. This is all fake. And so it was shortly after that he was deplatformed by first it was Apple, and then it was Facebook, and then it was Google. Any search results about Alex Jones comes up with any other Alex except InfoWars. And he is gone.
And it kind of happened like on the same day, didn't it? It was kind of weird.
Well, no, within a week.
Oh, okay.
And the one to deplatform was Apple. And as soon as they did it, then Facebook and Google says, oh, well, now we've got cover. We can do it too. We're not going to get any backlash. But the only one that left him in place was Twitter. He still had his Twitter account for about 3 months.
And his website.
He started he still got his website. You can't take that down. That's his own domain. Mm-hmm. But any searches on Google or Apple or Facebook will not bring up his own website. He is essentially brought down. And,
wow.
But he still had his Twitter account. And then he started tweeting direct threats at I forget who it was. One of the CNN reporters who was instrumental in getting him deplatformed.
I don't remember.
And it showed. Yeah, you got to see this documentary.
I saw the podcast with him on Rogan, and I don't think they brought that up, but maybe I'll have to watch that again.
That might have been before it all happened. I don't know. But anyway, they were in the halls of the Capitol, and Alex Jones with his camera crew go up and start just getting in the. No, that was it. That's what got him deplatformed from Twitter. Is he was at the Capitol and found the CNN reporter who had been calling for him to be deplatformed, and Alex Jones just went up and pointed in his face and called him a slimy rat bastard. And look at those beady rat eyes. Listeners, Wars listeners, this is the personification of evil right here. This is anti-free speech right here. And when Twitter saw him do that and tweet about it, then they said, "Okay, you're done. We're done with your BS." But again, that's another good discussion. Let's boil it down into a simple question that has a very difficult answer. MoJoes, do you think it would be correct for America? This has already happened in Germany, by the way, but would it be correct, supportable for America to make at least a finable offense, not jailable, but a finable offense to deny the Holocaust? The platform is yours. What is your take on that difficult question?
Yeah, freedom of speech gets tricky when it's so easy to broadcast. You know what I mean? Back when there was 3 TV stations and the PBS channel, when the president talked, all the channels carried it. Period. That's what was on that night. It's made.
Well, that's a good point too. It's the
freedom of speech is different today than it's ever been. I mean, you got fucking TikTok coming out of nowhere. What the hell is going on with TikTok? How did that get so dang popular? It seems to me like it's just Vines again. Vines was reborn. So it's a weird time, and freedom of speech doesn't mean what it used to mean. It's like right to bear arms doesn't mean what it used to mean. When they wrote that law, they had muskets. Now you got AR-15s and bazookas. Where are you going to draw the line?
Well, and the Second Amendment was for a militia to protect the country against invaders.
Made sense.
Not to protect you. Not to have an AR-15 in your home to blow away somebody who's drunk and comes to the wrong house one night.
And wants your toilet paper.
Yep. Exact. It's not an easy question.
Dude.
But I do want to refine it a little bit by saying that because it's so much easier to get your voice out there on the internet and to broadcast it.
We're doing it.
It does not really. To me, it doesn't really change the concept of freedom of speech, and as ubiquitous as that is. Back in the day, like you said, we had 3 television channels, and good luck getting your views aired on there. I mean, they went off the air at 10:30 at night.
Yep.
It came on at 6 in the morning. So good luck. Then what could you could write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper. Maybe it'll get published. Maybe it won't.
Yep.
No, I guess you could go type up your own manifestos and start plastering them on telephone poles downtown. And, that's how it was.
Yeah, well, freedom.
The concept of
freedom of speech. No, the concept of freedom of speech was to make sure that you always had the right to question authority, right? Because without the right to question authority, you've got a dictatorship or communism, and we don't want that. I want to live a land of the free where I'm free to question authority and call them stupid if I feel like it fits.
Mm-hmm. So you're calling out the good parts of freedom of speech.
Right, but freedom of speech has changed. Now it's people out there trying to brainwash you, trying to sway elections, trying to give you false news stories.
Oh, that's been happening forever, though. That's not just a recent thing. That's been happening
it's
forever.
So much easier now. Isn't that what we're talking about? I mean, some company can post these videos and have them go viral and sway an election.
Well, yeah, like these 2 that tried to smear Robert Mueller.
Yeah.
They did not care one bit that they knew it was false, what they were doing. They knew it was a lie.
Getting paid, surviving, man. Yeah.
All they cared about was making sure that every reporter in the room wrote about it. Whether they were saying these guys are full of shit or we got to research this further or whatever, all they wanted was for Washington Post and CNN and all of them to write about it. And it was kind of a moment of uplift when I believe it was the Washington Post reporter was interviewed back at his office. And he says, I was asked by my editor, well, did you go to that press conference about the Mueller rape? He goes, yeah, I did. And I'm not going to write about it. I'm not going to write a single word about that. And I appreciated what he did there, because everybody wants to write something that gets viewed, that gets clicks, that everybody says, no,
they want to break the story.
Yeah, they want that. And he goes, no, this was absolute bullshit from the very start. These guys are just trying to smear Robert Mueller to get clicks and get money, and I'm not going to write a word about it. And maybe that'll spread, Main Joe. Maybe that'll become more ubiquitous in the future, where the people who, like Pat Bagley on Facebook, I see everything he posts, and so do thousands of people around the valley and around the world. And when people like him get the integrity that he has, then maybe it'll start changing. It'll start getting better.
Yeah, we've had some amazing people on our podcast. I thought George Pyle was amazing, and Christine Stenquist, what she's doing is just so awesome.
Fantastic, yeah.
And Becky going out there and helping, man, just amazing people. Yeah. So they're out there. They just need publicity, and we need to talk them up more. I mean, why can't they get the clicks? Yeah. They deserve clicks, man. Give them some clicks.
Yeah, I agree. Becky Huff should get 1 million clicks a day, because and
so
she's
inspiring.
Not doing it to very much. And she reminds me of one of my favorite quotes of all time. And I have no idea where this quote came from. I just remember it's one of my favorite. Is that one of the greatest pleasures in life is to do some kind charitable act for somebody, totally anonymously, and then have it discovered later by accident.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of Becky Huff. She goes out and helps the world, helps people, and then comes back and goes back to work as a school counselor. Yep. She's not out there. She's not constantly trumpeting what she's doing and how much she helped and how hard it was on her and how much money it cost her to go do some chainsaws in Louisiana after a flood hit. She's not doing that.
Yep.
So, why don't we get more stories like that?
Yep. Yeah.
It's because Trump sells ad space, I guess.
People want to see the train wreck. They don't want to see a butterfly land on a flower and spread the pollen all over the garden. They do like the garden after the fact, though. I had an exchange with my brother and sister recently, and I'd like to get your take on it. They are both of the opinion that Trump is done now in the November election. What makes them think that?
The way he's handled the pandemic.
Really?
There are so many clips of him in a row saying exactly the wrong thing, essentially showing that either this guy has no clue what's going on, or he does know what's going on and is misinforming us. Either way, it's absolutely stunningly bad. And the economy, I guess we've got until November for it to get back up to 29,000, or else he's done. And they're just of the opinion that the moderate voters, the one that swept him into office back in 2016, are going to go hard the other way, and he is now done. And what was your take on that one?
Well, I think we might have even talked about it in a couple podcasts ago. I remember having some stats on that where Trump's approval rating has gone up in every category. I don't know how long ago that was. That doesn't seem to me enough has changed to make that big a difference. So I don't know if that was just an opinion piece he was writing and hopeful. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I still think he could win, especially Biden going downhill still. Did you see the clips since our last podcast? Have you seen some of those new clips?
I saw one that Hannity posted, Sean Hannity, and it was another just head shaking. Oh my gosh.
Shake my head. Yeah.
There's some enterprising person out there who supports Biden ought to do Biden's gaffes and then immediately follow it with one of Trump's. And then a Biden gaffe, then a Trump. Biden, Trump, Biden, Trump. You know, and just
that could be interesting.
They're pretty even, really.
Because when you compile them together like that, it's just it's so scary. But even Jimmy Dore even asked the same question I did in that podcast, which was, how did he manage to bring it together during the debate with Bernie? And now I just saw the headline just before I got on the podcast. He refuses to debate Bernie again.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah, well, I wouldn't want to fight Mike Tyson.
Even a nice Mike Tyson.
Well, even 50-year-old Mike Tyson, no way.
Even if he's just saying, "Hey there, how's it going?" and he hits me on the shoulder, I'd probably dislocate it.
Exactly. It's just ludicrous. It's ridiculous. Anyway, what else is going on in the world then?
All right, let's go through some notes maybe if you want, or we can.
Yeah.
I don't know. This has been a really cool podcast where I didn't talk about anything on my list yet, and we're almost an hour in.
Beautiful. Yeah. What do you got for us?
Bernie confirms he's staying in the race.
Right on.
I'm psyched.
Right on.
I'm psyched. And this is one of the first videos I saw where they were saying he ran a compilation of recent Joe Biden appearances and it did not go well. This man is not well. Yahoo News cancels Joe Biden online press briefing scheduled for Tuesday. I guess he went on several shows and they just got all these gaffes and just shake my head moments and it was making the rounds and they decided to cancel that Yahoo News conference. And now I find out today he won't debate Bernie again.
Okay, interesting. I can see kind of in the history of politics, there have been a lot of major upsets at the convention, Republican or Democrat. Major upsets have happened. Some of them are very underhanded, of course, and maybe all of them are. I don't know. But I agree. Bernie, stay in it. Stay in it.
Yeah, I'm so happy, dude.
Grounds.
I just need that nugget of hope. Give me a nugget of hope so I can keep going on, man. Things can get better. We can fix this. We can evolve. We can change and adapt when we need to, and now is the time to change and adapt, and let's figure this thing out. Okay, step one, we need something to suck the CO2 out of the air. Okay, let's get on that. Step two, the thing that clears out more CO2 than anything on the planet is the ocean. We need to keep it healthy. Let's get on that. I just saw an article today or yesterday. The Great Barrier Reef had another big die-off, and the scientists are saying,
coral bleaching.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I saw that headline. Yeah.
They don't think it's looking good if things don't get better, or maybe the reef can figure out a way to adapt. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. But let's try and keep the ocean healthy because it sucks a lot of CO2 out of the air.
Yeah, I mean, within reason again. Let's
head that direction, let's make some changes and head in that direction. You never know. Someday we might have flying cars like Star Wars and we won't have to fucking worry about it. And they just glide through the air magically.
Well, that's the whole point right there. I mean, Joe, I think that's where the big divide is between conservative and liberal or Republican, Democrat, whatever you want to say the divide is that you say, we've got to protect the planet. We've got to protect the oceans. We've got to protect the atmosphere. We've got to do this.
We got to live sustainably.
The hardcore right-wingers immediately say, okay, that means you just want us all to live in teepees and ride bicycles every day, then, doesn't it? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
No more air travel, no more hamburgers, no more...
But you know what I like? You know what I like? What I'm seeing on YouTube a lot, and maybe you've seen it too, are these tiny houses these people are building out there. They're living more frugally. Those things are so damn cute. It's like, man, I think I could probably do that. I love my house, but it fits us pretty well. 3 people in a good-sized house. But the yard is just, man, it uses so much resources and it gets more expensive every year. We've got to simplify. I'm not sure how we're going to do it just yet. We're probably going to wait till my daughter gets out of high school, but it's just a little too much.
I told you, I'm looking at buying a tiny house
Oh, yeah?
in Oceanside, California.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, have I told you about that?
Well, not recently.
It's a 4-minute walk to the beach. It's about a 15-minute walk to Oceanside Pier. And this thing is essentially, it's just one of many of these tiny homes in a big parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mobile home park, essentially.
Cool.
And this thing it's about 520 square feet.
Nice.
And it is everything I could possibly need.
Nice.
Everything.
That's so cool.
And it's like $120,000. So, I could just pay it off and rent it out, Airbnb it when I'm not there.
Perfect.
And, it's, and the house I live in now, I mean, you could have a family of 10 living. And really, I don't need it. I was raised here and I love my house. I absolutely love where I live. But I don't really need it. But, again, the Republicans think that liberals or Democrats want us all to live in teepees and sleep in sleeping bags to protect the environment.
I just want to
live more, the coral reef.
Live more sustainable. Put solar panels on your house if you can swing it, Water your lawn less. Conserve a little more. We got to head in that direction.
Well, you do. And it's a gradual thing, and it's going to be a fight every step of the way.
And we're going to get better at it. We come up with better packaging all the time. You can see the packaging changing in the last 5-10 years, We're getting better at it. We're going to get better.
And again, it comes back to the genius of America, really, is the genius of compromise. And really, any parliamentary or any sort of government where you get a big body of people, the genius of compromise. And really, the only time in American history that we have absolutely failed to compromise was the Civil War. There was zero compromise.
It got kind of bad then, didn't it?
That was intentionally, sarcastically understated. I think
there you go.
Yeah.
What do you think of these people? What do you think of the people of free speech again on the internet? And this comes up a lot. I don't I never have looked into it, but it comes up enough that it's like, okay, what's going on there? Is people talking about another revolution like that, another civil war? I don't know where I draw the fucking line. I mean, we just have these patches of blue and red all over the place. I imagine that's where the divisions would start, but what then? I don't know.
That is one that we really won't have an answer until we see an aftermath.
Where is that on your worry level, though? I mean, you've heard the stories too, then I take it, right? Where does that fall on your? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you worried about that happening? I'm more kind of like down in the 3, maybe 4 range. Pretty low. I don't think that's
around.
Realistic.
I'm lower than that.
Oh yeah.
Sad. I'm not worried about a civil war. I'm really not. I'm not worried about Trump calling in the National Guard if he loses the election. Okay. I'm not worried about that. Okay. I'm really not. It's the only thing that does worry me is that we get somebody much, much worse than Trump. I'm not, please, Major, no, I'm not equating Trump with somebody like this. But here's my biggest worry is that some politician leads some political party who comes in and brilliantly employs the First Amendment, freedom of speech, gains power, and then finds a way to abolish it. That is the only thing I really worry about. And I don't see it happening. At least not in my lifetime. And, I don't see something that bad happening. Because that essentially is exactly what the Nazi Party did. They used freedom of speech to gain power and abolished it.
Yeah, that's why I'm so grateful for the comedians out there calling it like they see it, It's like, they've been really hard on Trump, big time hard, and it's like, I'm glad we live in a country where they can do that because, I guess there was, you remember Jon Stewart, right?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah, me too. Do you remember that Egyptian buddy he had? He had a show similar to John's in Egypt. Yeah. It's like he got kicked out of the country or ran out of the country. I can't remember exactly how it went down, but he didn't have free speech over there. He couldn't even make fun of the guy. All he did was put on. Yeah. Was he really? But he escaped, or how did that go? Do you remember?
Well, Jon Stewart made a movie about it, a full-length feature film called Rosewater. Have you not seen that film?
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, look it up. I'll bet
should.
it's free on YouTube now.
Cool.
Rosewater.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
definitely.
And that's another great point right there. Is there are many countries on the planet that where you talk bad about the government, you're at least going to jail and maybe being exiled or killed. You know, it's
just for making fun.
Unbelievable. I mean, yeah, making fun and at the same time trying to enlighten people.
Exactly. That's why it's funny. It's true.
Well, MoJoes, doesn't it seem that anymore we get more truth? We get more information that is closer to the truth through Jon Stewart and Trevor Noah and Samantha Bee
Seth
and
Meyers.
Seth Meyers and
Colbert.
These people.
Yeah.
Then
Bill
I
Maher.
turn on Bill Maher. I'll turn on CNN, and then I'll see, I don't know, Anderson Cooper do a 10-minute intro dialogue. Then he just invites on a panel of 6 people,
Idiots.
and it's just a shouting match. It's just a big wrestling match.
I never go there,
and
dude.
forth.
I gave that up long time ago. Long time ago.
It's ridiculous.
It was insulting my intelligence. Yeah.
Well, a lot of these people too, like on the liberal side, like the CNN and the MSNBC, they have paid people, salaried people who are there just to top Trump up and defend Trump and conservative ideas and the Republicans, like Jeffrey Lord and some people like that.
It gets to be practically humorous. They're so out there.
And it's not news. And it's just, all it is a joke. It's reality TV that gets nowhere.
Trying to sway votes, trying to gain power, trying to keep power, trying to keep the money, cash flowing, you know.
Yeah, keep the advertisers happy.
Glenn Beck, I mean, he had a whole side business going on. I think Alex Jones has a whole side business going on where he sells weird products or whatnot. Didn't he recently get shut down, one of his products, because he claimed it cured COVID-19, and so they stepped in and said, you can't fucking do that, dude.
No, Jim Baker. And God, what another.
No, I mean, recently, dude, COVID-19, recently, Alex Jones, one of his products got shut down.
Oh, Alex. I only remember the Jim Baker one. It might have very well happened with Alex Jones. I would not doubt that.
It was just a headline. I don't know. Maybe not, but it sounded possible.
Well, did you see the John Oliver expose on Alex Jones a couple months ago, maybe a year ago?
I want to say yes, but I can't think of specifics.
Oh, well, if you haven't, right after this podcast, get on YouTube. Okay. It's all out there. And it's about 20 minutes worth. And Oliver is another one who is
very
informative, closer to the truth.
Yeah, he digs.
Very informative.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily give a worldview. He just says, "Here's the point," or "Here's the topic." This is very tricky. There are so many moving parts, and I love that he does that.
Yeah,
you know, and then he starts trying to get into the main parts that are tricky and explains them all. And it showed Alex Jones talking. What was it? The mega male vitality skills or something like this. And on Alex Jones' own website, it showed him, you know, I have sometimes with like weight loss, you'll have a before and after.
Yeah.
And it showed Alex sitting there wearing jeans and no shirt, and he's, you know, kind of chubby, looks like a little barrel, and you know, he's not all that fit, not all that fat. And then that was the before, and then the after was an identical photo. It just, he was sunburned in the next one. And they say, oh, wow, well, these pills are going to do that for me. You know, I can see a huge difference. You're pink now.
Oh,
you know, you're the same size. It's just now you're pink.
That's funny.
Now, Major, you get into one of the main reasons that, again, that I'm anti-Republican. You know, and I've got a litany of them.
Yeah.
But I think the easiest way that for me to explain it, I guess, is that I simply look at the supporters of a certain movement or idea or platform or political party, and I say, okay, if those people are supporting it, that's enough for me. I'm against it. And that really is what it comes down to with Republicans for me. You've got Alex Jones supporting Republicans, and Rush Limbaugh, and Glenn Beck, and Ted Cruz, and Phil O'Reilly. You have those people are supporting that, then I'm against it. I'm just dead set against it. And I can't really think of anybody supporting the Democrat side that makes me cringe in the same way, where I'm so immediately against. You know,
even Pelosi, I like her at times.
At times, yeah. Van Jones, I've heard him say some stupid ass shit before, but it doesn't have the same visceral reaction in me that when I see, you know, and dear friends of ours, jam friends of ours, will say well, I kind of dig Donald Trump. And I say, well, you do realize that Alex Jones and David Duke endorsed Trump. You realize that, don't you? And that doesn't seem to have an effect on them. You know, it doesn't. I
mean, what if they endorsed Bernie? That wouldn't change the way I feel about Bernie. I'd say, great, welcome to the team.
No, if David Duke endorsed Bernie, I would go, what the hell is going on here?
He doesn't think he's a racist.
Yeah.
I think I saw him in an interview, and he's like, I'm not racist.
And he's not sexist. And they tried to smear him as a sexist because of something he said about Elizabeth Warren or something like that. You know, and I don't know. It's just, I look at supporters and think, okay, that's the team I am not on right there.
Well,
I'm going to oppose that team.
Huh, okay. Yeah. I guess it would make me think twice. It would make me kind of question it. Okay, I guess. But until it happens, I don't really know. I don't know if it'd be enough. It'd have to be, okay, well, why are they supporting Bernie? You know, what do they get out of it? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about this topic? The word liberal is used by conservatives as an insult. And then, you know, even some of our friends, our friend Shy Joe, once in a text exchange with me and with Rasta Joe, he says, well, you only think that way because you're a liberal. And my response was, you know, Shy Joe, I'm not sure that you even know what the word liberal means. And, you know, I guess let's start with this question, and this might spawn some decent discussion, is why is liberal considered an insult from right-wing circles? What does it really mean, the word liberal?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't identify as liberal. I kind of identify as a progressive a little bit. Most of the shows I watch on YouTube are progressive type shows.
Yeah.
But I don't like labels. I mean, like we've always said on the podcast, you know, pick the policy. Let's talk about it. Where do you stand? Where do I stand? Why do you have to label with Democrat, Republican? Have you ever heard of this thing called ranked choice voting? I think Maine is trying it out, and that's where you don't just say, okay, I vote for this person and this person, but they go, okay, these are my top three, this person, this person, this person, out of like 5 people, and then they base who gets elected off of that versus just picking one person.
Say it again.
Ranked choice. Voting, yeah.
I like it. I know nothing about it, but I like
this two-party system just isn't working anymore. I mean, maybe that's one of the big changes that's going to have to happen here. You know, I mean, we've got to bounce back from this tragedy, this crisis. Did you like my last description of the last podcast? I said something like a crisis, a virus, a service.
I do, yeah.
That's what we talked about in that podcast. This economic crisis we're just starting to get into, a virus crisis that's killing people and spreading fast, and the universal health services. We need this universal health service, and we need it yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday we needed it.
Well, did you hear that? See the headline or read the article about the young lady who contracted COVID-19, got treated, recovered, and then got a bill for $34,000 in the mail?
I think I saw a Kyle Kalinske headline where he talked about that, but I never got around to watching it.
Yeah. See, there again, if that's not enough to sway some Republicans to vote, you know, then
dude,
what will it take? What will it take?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't get it.
We got to start helping each other out. You know, we got to be willing to do that. Why aren't we willing to do that? Why is ammo sales suddenly skyrocketing?
Yeah.
Fear. We're fear-based. We want to see the train wreck. Okay, we can know those two things about us. We like train wrecks, and we're fear-based. We're scared. We want to be secure. We want to defend ourselves. We're like these feral animals.
Well, most of us are. Yeah. I mean, there's another one of the major reasons I'm anti-Republican is they deal in fear.
Yeah, they do.
I remember that movie, The American President, with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening, probably 20 years ago now. And, I mean, that was extremely left-leaning. I give you that. But he gave a speech near the end of the movie, and I remember 2 points he made, 2 things he said that really summed up Fox News and Breitbart and 4chan and all these fear-mongering sites. Is they deal in 2 things. First, be afraid of it, and second, who's to blame for it. That's really what it comes down to. Be afraid of it, and here's who you target for your fear.
The blame game. And, I hate the blame game.
Despise it. Yeah.
It's funny, I've never seen that. I applied for this job not too long ago, and in there, they had this About Us section. Why would you want to work for us? Part of one of their planks in their policy is don't play the blame game. I've never seen it actually written into policy like that before. We don't do the blame game here, period.
Yeah. Stop with the blame game. And isn't President Trump, like numero uno in the blame game?
The best.
Avoiding responsibility? No, it's not my fault. I hear that was disbanded, but I don't know anything about it. Tony, passing the buck right on to Tony Fauci.
Yep.
But what happened to the pandemic team? Just ridiculous.
Ridiculous, yeah. Piece of work.
But I like the slide used instead of liberal. You said progressive, and I like that too. Because mainly because it's more than liberal. I mean, liberal has such a bad connotation in so many right-wing circles and media outlets that progressive is a better term. But I also like some of the descriptions I've heard in the past about what a liberal really is. What have liberals done for America over the centuries? I'm not just talking recently, but since the start of the country, really.
What do they stand for, kind of thing?
Well, they've accomplished for the betterment of America.
Well, that's pretty much what they promoted. One of their planks, right? Is something they push for.
Yeah, and things that have made America better.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at the ways they've made America worse. Try to be fair-minded on this.
Yeah.
But just a couple off the top of my head. Was it liberals or conservatives that abolished slavery? Would you say, Mean Joe? Liberals or conservatives who abolished slavery?
I think it was liberals.
Yes, it was. And who were the liberals back in 1865?
The Republicans.
The Republicans, exactly.
They were a brand new party, were they not?
Brand new. Lincoln was the first Republican.
Wow.
And the Republicans today love to say, we're the party that abolished slavery.
Party of Lincoln.
And I say, the party of Lincoln. We're the party of Lincoln that abolished slavery. And it is so difficult to explain to hardcore Republicans that, I'll tell you what, if the 13th Amendment were up for a vote today, Republicans today would be voting against it.
Yep.
The Democrat liberals are the ones who would be abolishing slavery today.
Yep.
That's just one example. What's another example? Here's one. Child labor laws. The liberals are the ones who first said, no, 10-year-olds should not be down in coal mines.
Mm-hmm.
And the conservatives are the ones saying, oh, that's bullshit. They've got to learn at some age, don't they? They've got to, it's a hard life and they've got to learn,
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one. The 5-day work week and the concept of a weekend. That was another liberal concept. The Civil Rights Act in the 60s, another liberal concept. The Equal Rights Amendment in the 70s, another liberal concept. So really, how really hurt America? I've just listed 4 or 5 ways that liberal policies.
Could you include Social Security?
Yeah, absolutely. did an FDR thing. FDR started Social Security, and he tried to start Medicare. I think that actually was accomplished under Eisenhower, a Republican, a moderate Republican. Not to.
So your question is how did liberals get a dirty name? How did the conservatives fake news it, broadcast it out as a dirty thing like socialism? They would probably equate the two practically, probably.
Well, here's my theory on that, Joe, is that it has swung a little bit too far in terms of the liberals, quote, liberals of today are calling everybody racist and sexist and xenophobic and everything. That it's gone too far one way. And,
I think that's what Bill Maher says a lot too, doesn't he? Bill Maher would agree with you, I think. Yes, he does.
Yes. We're not allowed to, any longer, we're not allowed to comment if we find a woman stunningly beautiful.
Or tell a vulgar joke.
Right, yeah. About a joke about oral sex or something.
Or say the word.
We're not allowed to do that any longer.
Or say certain words, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that is what the conservatives are now clinging on to. You're a dirty liberal. You want to abridge free speech, and you think everybody's racist, and you think everybody's sexist.
Yeah, somehow they got that abolish free speech thing to almost pretty much stick, which surprises me.
They have, isn't it amazing the way that they've co-opted that? Where back in the 70s, late 60s and 70s,
liberals were all about free speech. They defended,
It was all the hippies and the liberals on college campuses at Berkeley screaming about free speech.
Questioning authority.
And now somehow it's the conservative Republicans who are saying, we're the ones protecting free speech.
It's crazy.
And it is. It's amazing. And I'm amazed at how little the average American knows about it. And I'm amazed at how little I know about it.
Yeah, that's true. The memories are short, and then I think my memory is good, and then I realize, holy smokes.
Yeah. They don't realize, if you ask just the average voter, I was going to pick on Republicans again. I was going to say the average Republican. Mm-hmm. But if you just ask the average voting age person out there, when did the Republican and Democratic parties flip-flop? When did they totally go, each of them go 180 the other way?
Yeah,
at pretty much the same time.
I don't know if I could give you a specific year. I could take a guess, but...
It was 1964, Lyndon Johnson, right after he signed the Civil Rights Act.
That was after Kennedy. That was after Kennedy got shot.
Yeah.
That's when they switched.
And that's when it totally flip-flopped.
Huh.
Republicans became Democrats. Democrats became Republicans. That's when it happened. Huh. I could go on for like an hour on that kind of stuff.
So you consider Lyndon B. Johnson a Republican then?
No. What happened was he was a Democrat, and he started
assumed
expressing
office.
All the support. He what?
He assumed office. He started expressing support for the Civil Rights Act. He wanted to see that through for Kennedy.
He was buddying up with Martin Luther King Jr.
He was from the South. He was a teacher. He probably taught a lot of black students and knew that they weren't.
And at that time, it was still the conservative Democrats in the South. And then they saw him sign the Civil Rights Act and get all friendly with Martin Luther King Jr. and said, "Okay, we can't. I'm not a Democrat anymore."
Wow.
And that's when the Republicans said, "Well, come on over here then. We got room for you. You can be a Republican now."
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's when it happened. And the average voter doesn't know that. You're an educated man, and you look at a lot of stuff, and you didn't really know that either.
No, I didn't. I couldn't give you a year. I knew they flip-flopped somewhere. I'd heard the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it being a reliable source and all, and it made sense, But I didn't know the year. So it was Lyndon B. Johnson when he got that anti-racist law passed, right? What was the Civil Rights Act would basically
Civil Rights Act
gave the right Did it give them the right to vote, or had they already had the right to vote, but they just made it so that
they already had that.
But they just made it so that you couldn't deny them the vote. Did it make it?
Exactly. He started saying, we're going to send National Guards people down into Alabama and Mississippi to make sure that they can safely vote. And the conservative Democrats said, all right, that's enough. They threw their hands in the air. Okay, well, I'm not Democrat anymore. Where am I going to go? And the Republicans saw an opening. Come on over to our side. And then gradually the existing Republicans at the time, mainly in the North, they came down south. That's what we see today. Conservative Republicans are in the South, and the liberal progressive Democrats are in the North, and on the West Coast.
And on the East Coast.
So it's and on the East too, yeah.
New York City, Los Angeles, the population hubs where you have to be decent to one another just to survive. Mm-hmm. You're packed in there tight, you know.
Well, it's like downtown Tokyo anymore. You know, it's yeah. You got to bow and be polite and be as unobtrusive as you can just to stay sane. Get home every night.
Good point, dude.
Yeah. So, well, we covered some good topics tonight.
Yeah, I'm still just amazed that we've talked about so many cool things and that I haven't even touched my notes, but it's fine. It's fine.
Oh,
I'm so proud of you for not watching the news for a whole entire day. I don't want to foist this upon you. You know, this is just a bunch of more clickbaity news and stuff.
Yeah, bring out what's the one burning on the tip of your tongue right now?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, there's a lot of talk about the banks loaning, or the Fed loaning banks trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars. $4 trillion in loans to banks to keep them liquid.
This is a new thing, just happened today.
Wednesday, March 25th, $4 trillion. Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore. It's a pretty reliable source. He always, I think it was PBS actually who he got this from.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it's not taxpayer money. The money is invented by diluting the U.S. dollar.
All right.
So basically, it means the Federal Bank of the United States is backstopping all the other banks. Whatever that means.
Well, now I wish I had read some headlines.
So Jimmy Dore asked him, so does this mean we're going to have crazy inflation? And this guy said no, because the money's not moving. Industry, the money moving has slowed down so much that it's not going to cause inflation. They're just trying to keep the banks liquid, keep what is moving. And so he wasn't too worried about it. So Jimmy Dore was all set to start blasting, but this guy kind of kept Jimmy Dore in check. Yeah, it was interesting. And I think Kyle Kalinske had something on it too. But again, let's see if I got anything on that. I don't. Secular talk. No, I don't think I wrote anything down because he just wasn't connecting with me. He was acting like it was a big deal, but he never mentioned the fact that it was money created out of nothing and it was diluted and it's not moving, so it's not going to cause us any damage. And something had to be done.
Let's talk about that. Let's discuss that for a moment because that raises some incredible statistics. I mean, facts on the ground.
Facts on the ground. Here's the fact on the ground. Yeah. If a certain law hadn't been passed after the last economy meltdown in 08-09, it would be happening again right now. Fact on the ground.
Okay, fair enough. Here's another one. Let's use the best example.
It kind of is happening right now. I mean, I've never seen the shelves so bare. I went to Costco today, bare shelves.
Well, that's different.
We have more people applying for unemployment now than back then. Already.
No, it's a record.
It's a record already.
It's a record.
So it's happening.
So, but let's talk about the term you just raised.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Hyperinflation.
Yes.
Hyperinflation.
Yes.
Now that's a serious concern. That really is.
Yes.
And it's easy to understand because the best example of hyperinflation in recent history is Weimar Republic in Germany in the 1930s, early 1930s, before Hitler came to power. Hitler has nothing to do with this. The sanctions and penalties put on Germany after World War I were so severe,
Yep.
and then the Great Depression happens in 1929,
Yep.
and hyperinflation hits because the Weimar Republic in Germany just starts printing Deutschmarks right and left, just printing money out of thin air. That's all they were doing.
Yep.
And so it was easy to understand that suddenly it took $1,000 and then $10,000 to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
That's easy to understand. That you can see, that's very linear. There's a correlation there. Now, look what happened in 2008. Totally upend that theory. In 2008, the feds start just pumping trillions of dollars into the economy. Where was the hyperinflation, me and Joe? It never happened. A loaf of bread stayed around $2, didn't it?
That's a good point. Yeah, because I mean, when Obama was he was the president-elect, I think, when Congress convened and said, "Okay, what are we going to do to save the economy?" And they came up with this bailout, and they were going to pass it, but they ran it by Obama just to make sure he was in on it, make him look good, and then they passed it. It was close to $1 trillion, wasn't it? That first bailout.
Well, the first bailout was close to $1 trillion, but that happened under George W. Bush.
Yeah, it did.
That was one of
it was
his
before.
last.
It was before Obama took office. Yeah.
Yeah, it was $720 billion.
Something like that. Yeah.
And then Obama did several more of around that same magnitude.
Yeah.
Where was the hyperinflation?
Yeah.
If suddenly there is wheelbarrows of cash everywhere around America, how come a loaf of bread stayed at $2? And I have an answer, or a possible answer.
Okay.
And this comes from Mark Blythe, a professor of geopolitical economy. And he said what happened was the vast majority of that wealth went straight to the bankers and the corporations. It didn't get into the hands of the average spending Joe.
The money didn't have velocity. The money wasn't cycling.
It just didn't get spread.
Yeah, it didn't get spread.
It didn't get moved around.
It's the same. That's the same problem with the all the taxes. Oh, geez. Let me try that again. Tax cuts for the rich. The trickle down theory. That's why it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. Yeah. So if trillions of dollars get pumped in, and yet there's no inflation whatsoever,
no movement, no cash flow,
that just doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
In Weimar Germany in the 30s, they print all these Deutschmarks and then just started distributing it as welfare.
Cash flow,
people,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
Now you have enough for a loaf of bread. Well, tomorrow you don't.
Yeah, exact. Yeah. So I'm not saying I have any answers. I'm just describing what happened.
No, that's an observation. You're seeing a pattern, dude. That's what we do. We see the patterns. Well, that's now. That makes sense now. That's a good point. And the way he described it today, this guy, what's his name? You've probably seen him on Jimmy Dore. His name is Dylan Ratigan. He's a reporter, biological. This is the guy that was saying that we've got a biological crisis, we have an economic crisis, we have a social crisis. We got to make sure we don't have a financial crisis. And that's why he was kind of like okay with what they're doing. Because money's not moving. Just keeping those banks doing whatever it is they do. And avoid that financial crisis, avoid that credit crunch.
Well, it makes me rethink something I said in our last podcast, our last remote session, was, instead of bailing out the banks and the corporations this time, let's just put the money in the hands of the consumer. That's
been coming up for me a lot too, dude.
Now I'm wondering if we did that, would that result in hyperinflation? I don't know if it would.
This is an experiment, isn't it? It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Denmark says we'll cover 75 to 90% of employees' salaries to protect the economy. So basically what these countries are doing is they're paying the employers not to lay off people. So what they do is they furlough you. Basically, they lay you off with pay. The United Kingdom says we'll cover 80% of the employees' salaries to protect the economy. The Netherlands say
amazing?
The Netherlands say we'll cover 90% of employees' salaries to protect the economy. The USA says let's get everyone back to work and in church by Easter.
So, MoJoes there again. Look how the wool has been pulled over Republicans' eyes. The Republicans come out and say, no, if we do the same thing these other countries are doing, then they're going to be making more on unemployment than they would by working, so they're not going to go back to work. They're a bunch of lazy bastards.
Why?
That's what Republicans think of Americans. That's what Republicans think Americans would do.
Why do they vote against their own self-interest? Their group, poor Republicans consistently vote against their own self-interest. I don't get it. It's amazing.
I don't get it either. I don't.
But here's a bunch of examples. I want to do a Two Joes salute shout out to Gus McGuire. That was one of his comments underneath a video I watched. Probably the Jimmy Dore, or maybe it was the Seth Meyer video. Probably the Seth Meyer video. That was a comment he left, and I copied it out of there because I thought it was good. And these are a lot of different examples. These different countries are trying these different things, and we'll see which one works.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard a story like, okay, which one worked? Because there was after the 08-09 crash, different companies tried different things. Countries tried different things to keep companies and banks afloat. I wonder which one had the best result. Seems like
Iceland.
Iceland did. Oh wow.
Iceland had the best result. From my meager research, granted, we're not economists or anything, but it might have been a Bernie Sanders post, and it said, so in America we took trillions of dollars and bailed out the banks and corporations. In Iceland, they took a couple $100 billion. They're a smaller economy, of course, but they took a couple $100 billion and bailed out the homeowners and the people who were going to be evicted. And they actually sent some people to jail over in Iceland. And that's my meager input on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But further research could very well prove it wrong. But my main thrust there is Iceland handled it better than America did, for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which of these plans works out the best. But the U.S. is obviously behind. We haven't figured it out yet. But that vote we were going to keep our eye on happened, I guess, and we talked about that last podcast. That got held up. Well, it looks like they passed it. Nancy Pelosi, she held a news conference following the Senate's passage of a $2 trillion emergency relief package. The relief would deliver historic levels of emergency aid across the economy, including to households, businesses, cities, and states. It would expand unemployment insurance benefits and direct more money to cash-strapped hospitals, which I thought was a good idea.
Yeah. See, there again, the Republicans will say, well, nobody's ever going to go back to work then. They're living, they're making more money now by not working.
The Senate passed that, dude. That was the Senate, majority Republican majority Senate that passed that. Now it goes to the House of Representatives, and they're going to vote on it Friday. Trump has said he is eager to sign it. The full details haven't been released yet, but we know there will be $250 billion set aside for direct payments to individuals and families, $350 billion in small business loans, $250 billion in unemployment insurance benefits, and $500 billion in loans for distressed companies.
Yeah. I hope, I doubt they will, but I hope that they're able to figure out who really needs it. And by that, I mean, is there some way for them to track in such a short amount of time who has actually lost their job versus who is actually still getting their paycheck? And like me, I work from home and I don't need any help. I do not need a check from the government. I'd love one. That's a great weekend in Wendover, I guess, but I don't need one. Can they find the sports bar workers and the retailers that might be shut down?
In the bill,
the Starbucks.
In the bill, stimulus checks amounting to $1,200 per individual, but varying by income and family situation. Student loan payments would be suspended through September.
Yeah.
So they'll look at income and family situation. My wife says it might be some of it based on this year's taxes. She heard something that if you get your taxes in by April 4th, you might be the first in line for these checks when they get released, kind of thing. Because I think they're expected to be start cutting them by mid-April. My best guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Canada passed theirs. Canada is to receive $2,000 a month, $1,400 US for the next 4 months, if your job has been impacted by the ongoing crisis, and it includes self-employed and contract workers. Plus, Canada has a single-payer system, and it starts mid-April, but it's not a UBI.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's well, you know, you're kind of talking a bright spot there.
Yeah,
MoJoes,
maybe so. We're getting it together.
You know,
I'm making tough decisions.
More from how it's a global thing. Like the globe.
Yes.
I'm not saying the globe. The whole world isn't coming together on one solution, but the globe is coming together in terms of we got to hunker down. We're going to take care of our people, and if we can help out another country with medical supplies or transport planes or something, then we'll do that. And it's kind of a reassuring thing, a heartwarming thing, the way the whole world's kind of coming together right now.
Yeah.
Individually, they're in individual countries. They're taking care of their own, but we don't hear of a lot of trouble in the West Bank right now, do we? Or a lot of terrorist attacks in marketplaces and stuff. And
that's true.
That's another. It's kind of a nice thing. I watched the World War II documentary last night.
Oh yeah.
And let's compare those times to these times. I mean,
I know, dude.
One man.
I hear you. Every time I think we got it bad, I try to remember those. Those people must have been really unsure what the future held back then, for sure, man. It looked like Germany was going to win there for a while.
Oh, many different times, too. I mean, even later in the war, in late 1943, several American generals came out and said, you know what, Germany can still win this. Wow. If they don't screw it up, they could still win this thing.
And they kind of screwed it up, at least according to that Patton movie I saw.
Oh yeah, they screwed it up. Absolutely.
And it was like a lucky mistake. Patton got in trouble, so they transferred him to England. And then when Germany heard that Patton got transferred to England, they were like, "Oh shit, what are they planning?" And then they got confused, and then we came right up Italy and kicked their ass up.
Yeah, that's true. You got to hand it to the Germans, man. They can identify the best military leaders, even if it's in another country.
Yeah.
They knew Patton was our best general. They knew it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Joe, it's.
I think that's all I got, dude. Yeah,
here.
Really good session. Thank you very much. I'm glad we could get together on late notice, late at night, and yeah.
Well, it's good to mix it up, though. We did a Monday cast one time. I remember, didn't we?
Yep.
We did a Sunday morning, or no, a Saturday morning podcast.
I think this is our second Thursday. We're trying to do it every other day. I think we did one last Thursday, and then we did one Sunday night, so we skipped at least one day in there, 2 days.
It's worked out great.
Yeah, I think we should do the same thing this weekend, because, Friday night I'm kind of busy, and then Saturday's a nice day to kind of just unplug for a bit, and then come back Sunday and get set up for the week.
Awesome.
All right.
But do you mind if before you start the outro music, can I leave us with a clanger? This is what is referred to as a clanger.
Okay.
I think it's a Scottish term for like a big knock upside the head, a clanger. And this kind of goes back to the money a little bit and the economy and how money gets distributed and all that kind of stuff. And it's back to that professor I mentioned, Mark Blythe. And he mentioned something, and I looked it up, and he was right. I found the facts and figures, and he was correct. That in the year 2016, all of the Wall Street CEOs, just in America, their bonuses, just bonuses, not their salary.
In 2016?
Or options or stuff. 2016,
all their bonuses and options and their...
No, just their bonuses.
Just their bonuses.
The CEO
bonuses.
No salary.
No stock options.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, just the bonuses.
Right.
Equaled $26.3 billion. Now here's the clanger part of it. That every single minimum wage worker in America earned $13 billion. That's what you call a clanger. That's one where you kind of go, holy shit, is that real? Is that true?
Yeah.
So 350 individuals earned as much as every minimum wage worker in the country.
Millions of workers. Millions,
yeah.
7 million people alone work in restaurants and things like that.
Yeah, restaurants and Walmart and
Well, I don't know about that. I think it's just this food service industry alone, restaurants and pubs and bars and things like that. 7 million, and then then you look at these. How many people are employed by the coal industry? 30,000. Why are we raising such a ruckus over 30,000 when we got 7 million making minimum wage and have to go on food stamps and things to make ends meet? And the corporations get all these tax breaks and pay no taxes, but yet, so it's corporate socialism,
That's interesting. Yeah, corporate welfare. Let's remember Bernie Sanders. He says we are already socialists. It's just that the corporations are the ones benefiting from socialism. Yep. It's not the middle class. The middle class has been shrinking since Reagan.
How much do the banks tend to benefit from this $4 trillion, trillions of dollars flowing? You don't think they're going to skim some of that? They're going to make make it worth their while? What are their bonuses going to be like this year?
Yeah, Major, I say we come up with a theory that if this $4 trillion gets spent in the next couple of months and a loaf of bread is still $2, then we may know what happened. We might have an idea what happened. It went straight to the top again.
Fits the pattern. How did we get on this tangent? We were just about to do the outro. You gave us that clanger.
We were.
And then we got going again.
Clanger.
Oh, that was a clanger.
I like the word clanger. That's as good a word as wink.
Yeah. With the wink, I'll start the music.
Again.
Give us an outro.
Right on.
Mojo.
Appreciate you.
Later.
Thanks for joining us. MoJoes podcast. It was so nice to have you. We'll see you again maybe Saturday, definitely Sunday. Thanks again for joining.